I just wanted to talk a little bit about artists or potential artists who have fear. They're afraid to put brush to canvas. I've experienced that with my students, and actually, I remember when I was learning, I'd already been painting just as a child and had taken lessons with a neighborhood friend, but I was going into a completely different type of painting, and it was nerve-wracking because at this point in time I had already established myself as a painter. I was already producing work, but I wanted to grow in my creativity. And so when I got into this new style and concept of painting, it was very uncomfortable and disconcerting because there were varying degrees of painters around me, and so I was afraid of looking bad. And now that I'm teaching, whether someone is brand new to painting or they've been doing some painting like I was, I see that that same fear can come upon them as well. And I've actually a few times had to talk people off the ledge. And when that switch flipped for them, where they kind of got out of their head, they, it was like a new day. It was like they were reborn. It was such a great feeling. You could see how lit up they were. And now they are so opened up to learning, and they're not afraid of producing a mistake. So I thought I would talk about this a little bit. Some people are just so fearful that they won't even try painting or maybe even try anything. But actually, we need mistakes in order to learn anything. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just the way it is. And we also have to go through the steps. There are always foundational steps to whatever we might be doing that we have to go through in order to get to the place of, more confidence. So I know that some of the fears might be being afraid of being laughed at or scrutinized, or maybe discovering that you don't have talent, which is a misconception because really painting is something that anyone can learn. Granted, some lean towards it more easily than others, but that doesn't mean that someone who doesn't lean into it as easily can't learn and can't produce good work. So there's a lot of reasons that fear can come up and can block us from trying things. And, you might want to think about what is that for you and how possibly could you overcome it. So one of the suggestions that I have, I call an obstacle slayer, number one, is to get out in nature. Take a hike, walk on the beach, go sightseeing, even if it's wintertime, because that's a sunny day in the winter is beautiful, and it can be so inspiring. But getting fresh air is huge to our psyche. And another thing could be watching the sun go down or the sun come up, and you see these beautiful light conditions that can happen, and that it's so awe-inspiring. And also, if you happen to love animals, spend time with your animals or go where animals are that you love. Maybe you love horses, go to a horse farm and spend time with them and watch them and see their beauty. But even with that option being available to all of us, there's also just looking at photos of nature. And if you have a desire to paint, chances are that the earth and nature are important to you, and you just find awe and beauty in it. So definitely look up photos, or take photos, or photos you've taken, look at them. And it's proven fact that being surrounded by the wonders of our, world, which involves the landscape, the seascape, our animals, the creatures and things, all of that can really bring excitement to us, and that can get the juices flowing and make it so that you can't help but actually paint. So that would be obstacle slayer number one. Obstacle slayer number two would be that, remember, painting is fun. This is not a live or die situation. If you make a bad painting at any given point, which you no doubt will, because everyone does, the act of painting is fun. Playing with paint is fun. That's why paint parties have been cropping up all over the place, because people love the fun of painting. Do they all produce a great painting? No. They do what they can do in that moment. But if you don't take yourself too seriously, and you're happy with the small wins, then the process of painting can be really enjoyable. And if you make sure that you don't allow the restraints of perfection, and not allowing yourself to make a mistake to crop in, then you get to reap the rewards of enjoying the act of painting. And I found personally, when I was learning, I would get lost in working it out. Just the act of trying to figure out, get it right. I would be totally in a whirl. And allow that to be part of your journey, where you're enjoying the process. And the process for anything involves these steps. So whether you're learning math, or playing the piano, or even a runner, there's steps before you become good at it. So you need to find pleasure in the small wins, and allow those mistakes, because they're really important to your progress. If you never do it, you cannot think yourself into a finished place or a polished painter. You have to go through the steps to get there. And so changing your mindset, allowing yourself to enjoy that process, is huge. And knowing ahead of time that you're going to make mistakes, and those mistakes are valuable. You need them in order to learn and get better. So another thing that new painters really bog themselves down with is detail. Going after every little detail in a scene. Well, I'm here to tell you that a good painting doesn't involve those details. And in fact, if you keep it simple, it's going to be that much more enjoyable. So keeping your painting simple by going after the bigger shapes, and looking for the lights and the darks in a scene, or even on an animal, because light plays a big factor in our process of learning to paint. And so looking for the bigger shapes of whatever it is that you're making helps, because believe it or not, those shapes make what you're trying to do look real, more so than the detail. The detail comes later and is actually the little cherry on the top. That's it. It's what you do underneath that little cherry is really what counts. It's the most important part. And so what I teach my students is what I call the squint mechanism. And that's where you squint to minimize not only detail, but you also can, because it blurs out the detail, but you're also like able to spot lights and darks and color relationships when you squint. So I really encourage my students to use the squint mechanism. It's free, you have it built in, and it makes a big difference in your ability to make a successful painting and to do it fast. So this lightens your load where you don't have to worry about the details, particularly in the beginning. Down the road you may decide you want to be a photorealist painter. Well, you can lead up to that, but it still starts with simple shapes. Obstacle slayer number 3 that I recommend highly is to paint regularly. The more often you do something, the better you get. It doesn't matter, again, what it is, but if you set a schedule and a goal for yourself of, say, 20 minutes a day, well, you're going to say, I don't have a place for my stuff, the setup and the breakdown. Well, how about I have a suggestion of using a rolling cart, which I have one next to me here with my computer. I use 2 of them actually, and it's 3-tiered, and I keep my painting supplies on my carts. So then you can cover it maybe and put it in a corner and pull it out when you're ready to paint, or however you want to do it, you can just push it aside. I didn't have a rolling cart when I started, but I painted in my kitchen, and I think probably a lot of artists do. So keeping it simple, keeping it accessible is really important. But if you can designate a corner of a room or an entire room, fantastic. And that way you can just go in and work on something real quick and go. But if you have a plan and you schedule, just like working out, you schedule morning is your best time or nights are your best time. I mean, I was doing this when I had 3 and 4 kids. I have a total of 4 kids, and I was doing this while all my kids came along, working on the kitchen table. Actually had a couple of them paint over my paintings. I was really determined. So eventually I had a spare room that I was able to use, but do whatever you can to make it accessible for yourself to just do something quick. The other thing I recommend is working small. If you work, say, 5x7, 6x6, and keep your subjects simple, and of course keep how you paint simple by going after the big shapes, the lights and the darks, and you do a painting every day or 5 days a week or even 3 days a week, you're going to see how fast you progress. And what's going to happen is will you have some mistakes or ones you don't like? Yeah, it's important that happens. But you're also going to have successes, even if it's a partial success. And what's going to happen is each time you're going to improve, and next thing you know, you've got several really good paintings, and who knows, maybe you might want to sell them. or give them away as gifts, whatever. But having a plan that allows you to paint on a regular basis, 20 minutes a day would be great, even if you sat down for 5 or 10 minutes. If you've got a little designated setup that you can pull out real quick, go for it. And there's certain tools like palettes and palette knives and things like that that keep cleanup quick and easy, which we can talk about another time. But think about what 5 to 10 years might look like down the road. Did you chicken out and give up? Well, now you're looking at yourself 5 to 10 years later and you're like regretful that you didn't use those 5 to 10 years, because look where you would be at had you kept that painting practice up. We don't want to be our own worst enemy. The beauty that I've seen amongst my students is that they will commend each other, and it really lifts, what one painter sees, or even not a painter, what a non-painter will see versus, what you've predetermined it should be, is going to be two different things. And they're going to be like, oh, wow, you did a great job. That's amazing. And you're going to be like, oh, really? Oh, okay. So sometimes we don't always see things from a clear-headed perspective, you might say. And so, being in a group of other artists that are either learning or not, varying. I mean, I went into a class that had people a lot better than me and people that came in after me. And so that's just the way it is, and we can learn from each other. Artists praise each other and learn from each other, and it's a beautiful thing. So don't let your head get the better of you. Envision yourself where you're going, what you're going to produce, and what your hard work is going to take you to, and have fun with the process. Fun with the process of learning, experimenting, and that honestly is something that never ends. Artists are always trying new things and experimenting, and we, professional artists learn from each other and pick up things and try it. So that's a never-ending thing. No artist is ever going to be like complete. And that's the fun part of painting. So embrace it.